Danny Bonaduce became famous as a child actor of the 1970s on the TV sitcom The Partridge Family. He co-starred as Danny Partridge, the wisecracking, red-headed middle son of the singing family band. Since then, he has mainly worked as a reality TV star and hosted radio shows in Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and Seattle. His troubles started in 1990 when he was arrested while attempting to buy cocaine in Daytona Beach, Florida. Bonaduce was there to host an event for DARE, an anti-drug campaign aimed at children. And then again in 1991, he was arrested in Phoenix for beating and robbing a transvestite sex worker, which led him to losing his radio job at the time. Bonaduce has said he was broke and forced to live in his car behind a dumpster near the iconic Grauman's Chinese Theater on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was still famous, so people would approach him for autographs and to take pictures, but they had no idea he was living behind a dumpster. Today, he has recovered from his drug addictions and got his life back together. He has been co-hosting a morning radio show in Seattle since 2011. Randy Quaid has appeared in over 90 films throughout his career, but he is best known for playing Cousin Eddie in the National Lampoon's vacation movies. In 2009, Quaid and his wife were arrested for allegedly defrauding a homeowner in Santa Barbara by using an invalid credit card to pay a $10,000 bill. In 2010, he and his wife were charged with burglary and squatting after they spent 5 days occupying the guest house in a vacant home they once owned in Santa Barbara. Warrants for their arrest were issued, but they failed to appear in court and fled to Canada. After seeking asylum in Canada, the couple was notified that they would be deported, but they then crossed back into America where they were detained by U.S. Customs agents in Vermont. After the judge reviewed the state of California's case, he found irregularities and voided the extradition request, so the Quaids were released and allowed to remain in Vermont without conditions. As of today, he and his wife have made Vermont their new permanent home. Natasha Lyonne made her feature film debut in 1986 with a small, uncredited appearance in Heartburn. She gained prominence in the American Pie movies and has also starred in Slums of Beverly Hills, but her promising career was derailed after a series of encounters with the law. In the early 2000s, she was arrested for driving under the influence, and in 2004, Lyonne was living in a Manhattan townhouse owned by actor friend Michael Rappaport when she was arrested for harassing neighbors and destroying property. After she was evicted, she ended up on the streets. She was hooked on heroin and didn't have anywhere to go. After being admitted to the hospital with hepatitis C and a collapsed lung, she found a drug and alcohol treatment center that helped her overcome her drug problems. Since then, she was able to revitalize her acting career by stringing together bit parts before landing a role on Netflix's Orange is the New Black. More recently, the actress scored the lead role in the Peacock original series Poker Face, which has received good reviews so far. Bobby Driscoll was just 6 years old when his acting career began. By the age of 9, Driscoll had already become a household name, with his starring role in Disney's Song of the South. In 1953, at the age of 16, Driscoll lent his voice to Peter Pan in the animated film. Driscoll's many roles in Peter Pan, Treasure Island, and So Dear to My Heart earned him the Juvenile Academy Award and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. During his teenage years, Driscoll developed a bad case of acne and was ultimately dropped from his contract with Disney. After losing his acting contract, Driscoll spiraled out of control, and his addiction to narcotics and crime began to grow. In 1961, Driscoll was arrested and sentenced to the Narcotic Rehabilitation Center in Chino, California. Upon his release in 1962, he was looking for acting jobs, but to no avail. Driscoll relocated to New York City in 1965 and had hopes of making it big on Broadway, but the cards would just never fall in his favor. Driscoll was barely in his 30s and had nothing to his name. At the age of 31, he died of heart failure in an abandoned apartment building in the East Village. 2 boys playing in the empty building stumbled upon his lifeless body in 1968. Marvin Gaye helped to shape the sound of Motown in the 1960s, first as an in-house session player, and later as a solo artist with a string of hits that earned him the nickname the Prince of Motown. In 1972, Gaye wrote the soundtrack for the film Trouble Man, with lyrics that mirrored his own sense of insecurity. Let's Get It On, released in 1973, displayed Gaye's sensuous side. But by 1976, he was filing for bankruptcy due to missed alimony payments to his first wife. A judge ordered Gaye to pay $600,000 from his royalties, which left him with a growing addiction to cocaine that was made worse by his psychological struggles. He was also deeply behind on his tax payments, so he fled the country and lived in exile in England and Belgium, where he wrote the song Sexual Healing, the song that signaled his comeback. In 1984, during a family dispute, Gaye initiated a violent fight with his father, who ended up shooting and killing him. Marvin Gaye was nearly $10 million in debt by the time his life ended. Aaron Carter began performing at age 7 after the formation of his brother Nick's group, the Backstreet Boys, and he released his self-titled debut album in 1997. By the age of 9, he sold 1 million copies worldwide of his album. His second album, Aaron's Party, sold 3 million copies in the United States, and he started touring with the Backstreet Boys shortly after the record's release. After releasing another album in 2002, Carter wouldn't put out new music for 16 years, and during this span, he became more well-known for reality show appearances, family conflicts, erratic behavior online, and rumors of drug use. He also specifically accused his mother of mismanaging his money. When he turned 18, he only got a small amount of the money that he had earned through his career, and he owed millions in taxes. After filing for bankruptcy, Carter settled all of his tax debt in 2014, but he was struggling with drug addiction and mental health issues. He was withering away, dropping down to 115 pounds. And he was desperate for money, which led him to sell nude photos of himself on the website OnlyFans. On November 5, 2022, Carter died at his home in Lancaster, California at the age of 34. His body was found in his bathtub, and it was determined that he drowned because of a fatal combination of inhaling refrigerant and taking Xanax. John Drew Barrymore was the son of the famous actor John Barrymore and the father of Drew Barrymore. Coming from a family of famous actors did not sit well with him, as he was constantly compared with his father and grandfather. Barrymore's film career began with a small role in The Sundowners. He was promoted to leading man in just his second movie, the western High Lonesome, but his movies weren't very successful. He moved into television with guest starring roles. In 1958, he was sentenced to 3 weekends in prison after a drunken public fight with his wife in a parking lot. His ex-wife also sued him for owed alimony. In 1959, he was arrested for a suspected hit and run while he was drunk. He then traveled to Italy and stayed for a few years where he put together a few movie roles. Barrymore did return to Los Angeles, but his antisocial and erratic behavior continued to obstruct his professional progress. Although he continued to appear occasionally on screen, he became reclusive, disappearing into the wilderness to live a mystical but derelict existence. He was estranged from his family, and his behavior became more and more odd. By the early 2000s, Barrymore had cancer and had no one to care for him. Luckily, his daughter Drew took him in, and she paid for his medical bills until his death in 2004. In the late 1970s, Willie Ames was a teen idol thanks to his role on 8 is Enough. The sitcom followed a family with 8 children, and Ames played one of the brothers, Tommy. Even before joining 8 is Enough, Ames had a successful career as a child star, and he continued to act after the series ended, moving on to the popular series Charles in Charge. At the peak of his career, he was earning a little over $1 million a year, but he had serious alcohol and substance addiction problems. The actor admits that he made many poor choices, leading to a divorce and his life spiraling out of control. At his worst, he was sleeping in parking garages or under bushes in the park. He was in his 40s with nothing to show for his success, but Ames finally decided to do something about his situation. He had to start over at the age of 47, and he did so after he found his way back to church. That led to a job on a cruise line, where he worked as a ping pong boy at first, and slowly worked his way up to the job of cruise ship director. In 2016, Ames gave up the cruise ship gig and began acting again. Lately, Willie Ames can be found in various roles on the Hallmark Channel, as he has co-starred in many movies for the popular cable network. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and maybe even consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this playlist, and then visit the channel to search the Recollection Road Library. As always, thank you so much for watching.